in the chat and I'll answer it as we're going along. If it's a complicated question, then what we can do is I'll open up your mic and we can talk about it. Okay, so this webinar is about how to keep your joints moving. So it's about simple exercises. Basically, you must have heard the term motion is lotion. So if you're doing the right movements, then it can help your joints keep lubricated and keep going. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to briefly cover nutrition, things like that, but we're mostly going to be talking about practical exercises to reduce stiffness. And we also need to stay consistent with these exercises. So a few basics about the science. So the joints allow movement and flexibility. And you have the cartilage, which cushions and protects. And then you have a synovial fluid in most of the joints, which lubricates it as well. So one of the tips I often give people is having glucosamine and chondroitin as a supplement. So glucosamine provides organic sulfur for regrowing the cartilage, and chondroitin is good at bulking up the synovial fluid, so you've got more padding in there, more fluid in there. And the joints can degenerate for a number of reasons. So aging reduces the cartilage and the fluid. It also reduces the, you can have arthritis, osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. You can have problems with the ligaments because the ligaments tend to get stiffer as you get older. Having a sedentary lifestyle accelerates the wear. Now this can seem a bit odd, or a bit counterintuitive, because you think if you're using the joints more, you wear them out more. But actually, if you're sitting still, you're not getting any blood flow in and out of the joint, and that can accelerate the wear and tear on it. And obviously, if you've had injuries, that can worsen degeneration. So someone's had a fall on a hip, that can cause an injury, bit of scar tissue, and that can affect the mechanics of it and accelerate the degeneration. Also, as you probably know, if your spine is out of line, then the mechanics around the joints will be affected, and that can worsen degeneration. And then there's aging in itself. Not a lot we can do about that, but there's lifestyle habits. So as I said, if you're sedentary, can cause problems. Excess weight can cause problems. If you've got a bad posture, then for example, if you've got used to having your head forward, then you're going to be putting excess weight on the neck joints, which can cause problems. And nutrition and hydration comes into it. If you're constantly dehydrated, then that will have an effect on the joints, especially the spinal joints, because the discs will dehydrate. Basically, your body reserves the fluid for the important organs, the heart, the lungs, the liver, and it can manage without fluid for the spinal discs, at least temporarily. So very briefly, right sort of nutrition for joint health is the omega-3 oils and collagen. So fish, avocados, things like that. You need the vitamin D and calcium for bone strength, particularly as you get older. And so things like fish, greens, nuts, etc. There's an awful lot of information about that out there. I can go into that in more detail in another webinar if you like. So why does movement matter? Sorry, just have a sip of coffee. So if you're moving, it helps to prevent stiffness and pain. It improves the blood flow to the joints, and it strengthens muscles around the joints, so you get some more support in there. Now, what I'm going to be following with a lot of this is what's called the joint by joint model. So it was developed by two personal trainers in America. And the idea is that we consist of stacks of bones. So we have bones stacked on top of each other, and they alternate as to whether they provide stability or mobility. So your foot bones provide stability, but then your ankle bones have to be mobile. Your knee joints provide stability, so you don't want them wobbling all over the place. But your hip joints have got a lot of mobility, so they have a wide range of movement. And the lower back is stable, the mid back is mobile, and the shoulder blades and the lower part of the neck provides stability. And then you have a lot of mobility in the top of the neck, so you can nod and shake your head and so on and look around corners. So if your hips have gone stiff because you're sitting too long, then you're not getting enough movement in the hips, and your lower back has to move more. So it becomes excessively mobile, and that can lead to back pain. Or if your foot is unstable, that can stiffen up your ankles. And if your ankles go stiff, then your knees can get unstable. So what we're going to go through is a series of exercises to work all the way up the body to try and get the best results and the best mobility. So this is a reset that you need to do every day. And the idea is to improve mobility in the joints that need more mobility, improve the joint stability in those that need it. And as a result of that, you get better proprioception, you better awareness of where your body is, which will improve your balance. I don't know why the slides didn't quite come up as I made them, but okay, so the first one is the 3D ankle glide. So this is to improve the movement in your ankle, and it's crucial for walking and squatting. So as I said, if your ankle gets too stiff, that's going to give you knee problems. So what I'm going to do is send you this in a PDF, so you can keep it with you and go through these exercises. So what you're going to be doing is standing up. You're placing one foot forward and you're keeping the heel down on the floor. So you probably just a half a stride ahead of you. You don't want to be stretching too far. It's not like doing a lunge. And what you're doing is gently moving your knee forwards and backwards, and you're keeping your back fairly straight, and then you're moving it side to side, and then you're moving it in circles. So if you imagine, so you're basically going forwards and backwards, left and right, and doing that sort of movement around the ankles. So with all of these movements, you're focusing on smooth, controlled movements. You don't want to be jerking anything. Now, if you find that you're having a problem with one of the ankles, or if you're having a problem with any of these movements, next time you're in, could you let me know about it? And we'll have a look. So you do each side for 60 seconds. And then you're doing dynamic hamstring sweeps. So this is to open up the hamstrings, but you're not forcing a deep stretch in the hamstrings. So the usual thing is if you're trying to force the hamstrings, if you're trying to touch your toes, for example, you can overstress the hamstrings. So you're standing with your feet hip width apart. you step 1 foot forward. So you have your heel down on the floor, but you have your toes up. And then what you're doing is you're hinging forward at the hips and you're sweeping your hands past the front leg. So you're bending forward and you're sort of going in this sort of motion through your hip. And then you're returning to standing. So what you're doing is you're breathing out as you go forwards and in as you come back. So is that making sense to you guys? Okay, just put a yes in there in the comments if it is. If this is totally confusing, just put no. So what you're going to be doing is repeating this rhythmically. So breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and you're alternating from leg to leg. And then you have the spinal wave roll down, which is looking at the spinal flexibility and control segment by segment. So the control is an important part of this. Is if you do this too quickly, what's going to happen is that you'll get, you'll just stress the ligaments and the discs. So you're standing tall, you tuck your chin down, and you slowly roll down, vertebrae by vertebrae. And then at the end, you let your arms hang down and you pause at the bottom. And what I want you to do is to take a deep breath in and then a long breath out. And let your arms just go down further under gravity. And then you reverse the motion slowly, so you're stacking everything back up. So the idea is not to rush this. You need to feel each section of your spine as you're going along. Okay, so the next one is opening and closing your hips. So remember that if your hips are too rigid, which can happen if you sit a lot, then the hips haven't got the flexibility they need. So what you've got to do then is what would happen then is that your back has to move too much, so you'll get back pain. So what you're doing is sitting on the ground. You can use a cushion if you like to sit on, and you have, if you imagine these are your knees. So one knee's up and one knee's horizontal or as near as you can get it. So then you're going like that with your knees. So you're rotating your hips to switch sides. And you're keeping your feet grounded on the floor. You're not lifting your feet up and waving your legs about. It's just the knees, it's just the hips that should be moving. And again, you're doing this in a smooth, relaxed way. Where in terms of breathing, I would breathe as you come up. So it's like in, out, in, for example. 3D thoracic reach is for mobilizing the upper back and shoulders. Now you can do this kneeling, or you could even do this sitting. But basically what you're doing is you're placing one hand behind your head like that, and then you're just rotating your body. So you're doing that sort of movement, and then you're going the other side. So you might get a few cracks and crunches as you're doing that. So you're keeping your hips still. It's the thoracic spine that's moving. The reason for having your hand up like that is that makes more movement come from the thoracic spine. If you did that, you're doing all the movement from the lower back. Okay, and then with the shoulders, what you're doing is improving the movement of the shoulder. So what you're doing is moving one arm up like that. Can't do it in the chair, but basically you're just bringing it round in a smooth movement like that. And then you're bringing it back up again. So if I was standing, that would be a smoother movement. I wouldn't have to move to the side. But so it's that sort of movement, and you're doing it one shoulder each. So you could either do 60 seconds on one shoulder and move to the next, or you can alternate until you've done 2 minutes. Again, if you're getting problems with this, you should never force any of these movements. So if you're finding any of these movements are causing you problems, stop, don't do them anymore, and email me or talk to me next time you see me. And then we've moved up to the neck flow sequence. So let's just go an easy one. So you're rolling your head down, then bringing it back up again. And then you're saying no. So you're going at about that sort of pace. And it shouldn't be painful, and it should be a controlled movement. And when you've come to the end of that, do a full body reset. Stand up at the door, shake out your body, take 3 deep breaths. So breathe in through your nose, rapidly, slowly out of your mouth, and you should be feeding the breath into your abdomen. And smile, because you've just improved your mobility. So when you first do this sequence, you're not going to be leaping about like a spring lamb or a young gazelle. But over time, what will happen is that you're constantly improving your mobility. So remember that it's taken a long time for your body to get stiff. So you need to take some time and do it consistently, and it'll work its way through. So one of the things that I always try and tell people is that your body knows exactly what it's doing. So you have to trust the process. You shouldn't force the body to do things that it really doesn't want to do. This is why you've got to listen to your body and don't force it. If it hurts, don't do it. If it's stiff, then do what you can, and then over time, your body will use the movement to get more and more relaxed. So it's slow, controlled movements. Don't force anything, and make sure you're breathing deeply as you're going through. So you inhale through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. And it's more important to get good quality controlled movement than it is to do lots and lots of repetitions. Again, with some physiotherapists, and so with personal trainers, what can sometimes happen is that they talk about lots of reps, going through the pain barrier, etc. And for most of my clients, that's not appropriate. So it's a matter of going slowly and working with your body. And some tips on staying consistent. So one of the easiest way to develop a new habit is to link the exercises to a habit that you already have. So you could make a point of doing it every time you do your teeth. So I hope you will do your teeth. I either do my exercises while I'm doing my teeth, or just after I've done my teeth, or while I'm waiting for my morning coffee. And it's just a good way of getting the body moving in the day. You can set reminders. So if you've got a phone, or if you've got a Fitbit, something like that, you can get it to ping you every half an hour or an hour or once a day, whatever times you think will work best for you. And the thing is to enjoy it. So as I say, if you're stressing about not being able to do a particular movement, you're not enjoying it. You've got to think like a young child, in fact. If you imagine how a young child moves, the joy of movement, everything's relaxed, everything's moving easily. That's what ideally we'd all like to get. So you've got to be enjoying yourself, and don't worry too much about doing it right as well. So, as I say, I'll email you the PDF with all the exercises on, and you can ask me questions about them if you need to. So now I want to deal with some common myths. So one of the myths is that exercise worsens arthritis. So this is sort of half a myth. Obviously, if you had bone-on-bone arthritis in your hip, don't go running. So what we're talking about here is gentle, weight-bearing exercise, but not jarring exercise. So just using the body weight, not pounding up and down. A lot of the exercises, like if you were working out in the gym, light weights with plenty of repetitions is great. Heavy weights where you're really straining is going to cause a problem. Also, there's the myth that if you've got no pain, you've got no issue. So this is false, because you can often get stiffening in the joints, which will eventually lead to pain. By the time you've got pain, there's so much damage in there, it's quite difficult to deal with it. So it's much easier to get the joint moving at an earlier stage. The other thing is this old myth of if your joints crack, it leads to arthritis. This has been shown many times to be false. So all the getting in the cracking is a bubble of gas in the synovial fluid, which then pops again. So that doesn't cause any problems with the bones. Okay, so I do go into this in a lot more detail with a lot of other things in the Get More Life program, which is a very personalized health approach. So if you're interested in that, email me for details. And now what I want to do is to open it up for questions. So if you have a question, probably the easiest way to do it is if you ask in the chat, and I'll open up your mic and we can talk through it. So first of all, was that clear and was that helpful? Have you got ideas of exercises you can do? And Mike's typing a message. Yeah, so you got it, good. Excellent. Anybody got any questions? So, as I say, I'm open to, if anything else occurs to you as we're going along, feel free to email me or ring me up. You've got my email, haven't you? It's peter@yourspinalhealth.com. So always open to answer questions. And yeah, so anyone else got any questions before I close it down? Excellent. Well, thank you very much for attending. And Sheila's got something coming through. By the way, coffee doesn't count as hydration, much to my disgust. But I will be topping up with my water bottle. And red wine doesn't count as part of my 5 a day either, even though it's got grapes in it. Okay. Don't think your message came through, Sheila. If you want me to open up your mic, do you want me to just type yes and I'll open it up for you? Sorry, Sheila, it's not coming through. Do you want to email me your question and I'll answer it via that? I'm not sure what's happening with the technology there. Okay, as I say, anyone else, feel free to contact me via email. It's probably easiest, and then I'll answer any of your questions. I will send this recording to you, and I'll also send you the PDF with the exercises on. Okay, thank you very much for attending, everyone, and I shall speak to you soon.